So, Jamie's son's safety is more important than hers to me. Her getting laid is more important than the son's safety to her, apparently. Her getting to play head games with people is more important than her son's safety. But she's allowed. She's his mother. The things that I have to deal with the police, a lot of homeless people have to deal with, just not on this level. A lot of the homeless people that I've gone to for help, they say, oh, well, we all have to deal with that. No, no, you don't. See, I lived homeless for a lot of years. I know the bullshit that homeless people have to go through. I know the hell that is our lives. I know how the police treat us. And I am telling you, this is that, but on a whole different level. See, we're not talking about just the bullshit that you have to go through being homeless and the bullshit that you have to go through with your families when you're a homeless person. We're talking about something that was blasted all over the news and slander was spread all over the news, and I was never allowed to defend myself against it. And because I was never allowed to defend myself against it, I get physically abused. I get mentally abused. I get financially abused. And I can't defend myself against that either. Because if I defend myself, I will be punished. They won't look at the reasons that I was forced to defend myself. The only thing that they will look at is a history that I was never allowed to defend myself against. For the last 2 years, police across the United States have been completely shitty excuses for a human being. Now, don't get me wrong, they weren't any more decent to most of the homeless people that I know or myself beforehand. They still wouldn't take a report. But now it's graduated to more violence from the police, more harassment from the police. And these people who want to be pissed off that I told their secrets on the internet for the whole world to see. Hey, at least it's the truth. I invested what little I had in your empty promises. Now I'm going to go over here. There's a guy named Dwayne R. Kraft Jr. He got into a video that I made called Racial and Homeless Profiling in Boulder, Colorado. And here's what he had to say. He typed, I'm homeless in Boulder and I agree and feel everything you're saying, brother, my friend. Or brother. My friend Tennessee is facing 30 years for defending a girl at the band shell. 3 counts of first degree assault, and he can't get any help because the people he has to contact for summons have no addresses. Keep your head up, brother. Your video deserves so many more views than it has. I get a lot of that stuff. Here's another one from somebody whose name I can't pronounce. It says, hello, Sean. I just want to thank you for taking the time to post a reply. While I don't agree entirely with you, I agree that this has a lot more to do with being poor and or homeless than perceived racial class. I live in a town with a huge homeless population, and you are spot on. See, that's the difference right there. I'm gonna explain to you using a therapist degree. All right. You can go to school and learn all about psychological trauma, but you're still not going to know a damn thing about it unless you've lived it. So while you went to school and learned about psychological trauma, and you're dealing with people who have experienced psychological trauma, you aren't able to help them because you can't make a connection with that person, because you don't have anything in common with that person. Now, when you've got somebody who's experienced that trauma, and then they get that education, and you don't have to go to school to get that education, by the way. You go to school to pay $150,000 for a piece of paper. That's what you go to school for. Me, I got that education firsthand, but I also did a lot of research and looked a lot of stuff up. See, I didn't just experience the trauma. I wanted to do something to help others who have experienced it. That's where the whole castle idea came from. It started off as my escape from the abuse that I was enduring in the system. I had a footlocker and I had little bits and pieces of toys in there, kind of like my safe escape from reality. Because the reality of my situation was I was getting beaten up for the color of my skin and being raped by hospital staff. Lovely. All right, not always hospital staff, group homes, foster homes, it didn't matter. And my whole fantasy at the time, and mind you, I understand the difference between fantasy and reality. My fantasy at the time was a safe place for the lost boys. You know, Peter Pan and all that. As an adult, I was used to people telling me, oh, that'll never work, that'll never work, that'll never happen, that'll never happen. You need $1 million. No, you don't. You don't need $1 million to build a house. You need property to build it on. You need building materials. You pick the right property, you got building materials on the fucking property. Many of y'all have seen them shows, I'm sure, about them mountain men up in Montana and Alaska and shit. And they go out there and they make themselves a log cabin. Did they go to the lumber yard for those logs? Fuck no, they didn't. You need land. That land allows you certain rights. It gives you a place where you are safe from victimization. Now, there's a lot of you who say, you know, just because you got a place doesn't mean you won't get victimized. Well, let's look at the chances and opportunities that people have to victimize you. If someone assaults you on the street because you're homeless, it's your word versus theirs, and you're the one who's homeless. And public opinion says that you must be mentally ill or an addict. So automatically that person wins. Automatically that person who assaulted you is right because you're homeless. But then again, that person comes to your house, busts in your door, and assaults you in your house. The tables are turned because you're not homeless. You are in your own home. You are in your own home when that person came to assault you. That person had to break through your door to assault you. That's not your word versus theirs. That's your door broken in. That's not your word versus theirs. That's you in your house. Between getting into a fight with you and leaving your house, that person should have left your house by law. The law is on your side because it is your fucking house. And that's the reality of the situation. Fuck this goddamn country. Miss Peaches wanted to be busy telling me how to think and how to feel. Before Natalie died, I went over there 4 times to try to get help with this. Jeff Ritter, his boss says, "Oh well, he'll talk to the courts if he's summoned to court." No, Jeff Ritter, I need you to tell the truth so I can get a lawyer so I can do that. People keep saying, "Well, you need a pro bono lawyer." How am I supposed to get a pro bono lawyer when it's just my word versus theirs? Yeah, I recorded these people's conversations with myself, and that right there is enough evidence in those conversations to convict police officers, to convict the Bollingers. The problem is getting somebody to look at it. Right now, I gotta go through all of this evidence. It's stolen repeatedly. Have police refuse to collect evidence. Have the FBI turn a blind eye. Have people tell me you need to contact these people and you need to contact those people. Meanwhile, I'm doing everything that I can to accommodate you by doing what it is that you're asking me to. But if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. That doesn't mean I'm not fucking trying. Meanwhile, you guys didn't try. And then you want to play victim when I'm out of resources. That is so fucked. By Tabitha's own admission, her own admission, I paid rent there. I helped clean up every single day. Every day. I contributed food to the household, just like I did when I was at Miss Peach's. Obviously, these people were trying to help. They just weren't writing it the fuck down. Shannon Alvarado wasn't writing it the fuck down. When Rick would stand up for himself, would defend himself, Shannon got extremely verbally abusive, extremely and very loud. And it was because she's an alcoholic. The 2 times that I brought that up, she fucking snapped at me. Now, that phone conversation while I was in Montana when she decided to call me up and fucking talk over me, not listen to what I had to say, because she never does. Shannon is always right no matter what. She wanted to put Rick on the phone. Now, the things that I said to Rick, I would have said to Shannon. She would have thrown a fucking tantrum. She would have been completely fucking shitty to me for it, but I'd have said it. Instead, I'm telling Rick. And of course, it's on speakerphone and Shannon can hear it. And the first thing she does is start doing the same thing that she did to Rick every night that I was there, yelling and screaming, yelling and screaming. It's okay for her, it's not okay for me. The last 10 minutes of that video are her and Rick arguing with each other until I hung up. They might have hung up, I don't know. Fuck this goddamn country where no money means no rights. It's we the people when it comes to paying taxes. We the people pay the taxes. The rich don't. We pay their taxes, tax subsidies, corporate bailouts, paid for by the poor. But then We got these assholes who are like, oh, well, that's socialist. Motherfucker, America was founded on socialism. Democracy. True democracy is socialism. But the difference between a true democracy and a democratic republic is that in a democratic republic, the information is controlled. What you're allowed to say, what you're not allowed to say, which obviously the First Amendment is against. But in reality, we don't follow the Constitution. Our government doesn't care about the Constitution. It doesn't care about your rights. The shit that Donald Trump bitches about. Things that I've had to deal with. But is Donald Trump going to do a goddamn thing about it? No, I don't fucking matter. I'm not a senator. I'm not a rich white man. I'm not a pretty white girl. So I have no rights. They victimize the victims. I am not only 100% for gun rights and gun ownership, I believe that the homeless people should be armed. The police are far less likely to do the fucked up shit that they do to the homeless if they're afraid of getting shot for it. If the cops are afraid of getting shot for breaking into your house to break the law, and that prevents them from doing the things that they do to the homeless when you're in a house, then homeless people deserve those same human rights. A lot of people want to bring up Adolf Hitler and the Nazi Party when it comes to socialism. That's not socialism. That is not socialism. Joseph Stalin and his regime, not communist, not communist, because communism is socialism. A lot of people are like, whoa, well, communists do this and communists do that. No, they're not communists. Have you ever read the Communist Manifesto? Have you? It's like you asshats who want to pretend like you're Christians and followers of Christ. You want to be hateful towards all Muslims, yet you have never read the Quran. Ever. I've read the Quran. And I listen to asshats who claim to be Christians telling me what's in the Quran. And I tell them, no, that is not in the Quran. I've read the book, that is not in there. You are fucking lying to me. That is one of the 10 commandments that you're breaking. You are bearing false witness at me right now. How can you tell me what is in the Quran if you have not read it? I have sat in church here in Chapel, Nebraska, and listened to preachers tell me what's in the Quran. Things that are not in there. And it's the same thing. It's the same scenario with that Christianity. You want to tell me how it is when you've never lived it. Other people go through this too. There was a black man who spent a lot of years locked up Was he railroaded for the color of his skin? No, he was railroaded for assumed guilt. And yes, his skin color had something to do with it. But that's not all. That's not the only thing that goes into assumed guilt. When police officers go to your house to decide who they're going to arrest, they decide based on who looks the most impoverished. Because that's the person who is most likely to be convicted. That is the person who is easiest to victimize. There's a lot of things that could have been done before that can't be done now because of loopholes that the police across the United States played into. Not every officer that I spoke to is a piece of shit, by the way. Not all of them. But the fact is, most of those ones still didn't do their jobs, which still makes them pieces of shit. The abuse that I had to endure for a whole year before Natalie was killed, she could have put a stop to just by coming forward. I told her to give the police my fucking number and have them call me. Did they? No. No, they didn't. Cops keep saying, oh, there's nothing I can do about it. Bitch, you can document it. You can at least fucking document it. Why does Scott DaCosta get to pretend things that he gets to pretend about the situations before Natalie died? Because those officers didn't document it. Obviously, they didn't document it. I already knew that they weren't going to document it when they were telling me things like, I have real police work to do, and you just need to man up. Meanwhile, that would at least be on their fucking body cameras if they were forced to wear them. Miss Peaches wants to be pissed off at me because I said she did nothing. And she didn't. She didn't do a damn thing to help. There are lots of little things that she did without her coming forward about the fact that she did those things. They weren't help. Because Amanda Jonas got to slander my name and hers and many others because they didn't write that shit down. And then when I'm pissed off because I will have to endure this abuse for the rest of my life because these people didn't write it down. They're like, oh, look at all the stuff that I did for you. I know you did those things. I was there when you did those things. I was grateful for the fact that you did those things. But the fact that you didn't come out with it fucked me. And those of you who said that you came out with it, did you come out with it in public? Who did you speak to? Which officer in specific? If I'm trying to get that information to my lawyers, if I am able to get one, how am I going to get that information to them? And much like with Miss Laura, who wants to remain friends with these people, she doesn't want to get involved and doesn't want to say anything because she wants to be friends with these people. I already knew that. I already knew that with most of this situation. I knew that Chelsea Worsing didn't want to come forward because she still wants to be friends with Katie Whiteman, who hates me. Meanwhile, Katie Whiteman wasn't there for any of it, and Chelsea Worsing was. Does that make any fucking sense? But I'm not as important because I don't go hang out with Chelsea every day. Why don't I hang out with Chelsea every day? I am sure that Katie Whiteman doesn't hang out with Chelsea every day. Now, why is this? Because Katie Whiteman cares about other things. She cares about her drugs. She cares about her partying. She cares about getting laid. All right, fine. That doesn't make her a bad person. But me, the reason that I don't go see Chelsea Worthing is because of safety issues. I have to worry about being assaulted by the police. I have to be worried about being assaulted by the public. A lot of people are like, well, you were cleared. Your name was cleared. No, it wasn't. I was railroaded in court. So my name was not only not cleared, it was damaged further. And there were people like Shannon Alvarado who knew better. But she never came forward, did she? She never wrote a police report, did she? She said, well, I'm in California. They won't let me. Really? The woman I needed you to write a report about, out of all of the situations that you were involved in, you could have written them down, and you didn't. The situation with Kara Johnson Miles, you could have written that down. Kara Johnson Miles lives in Texas, and she was allowed to make a report all the way from Texas, and you can't make one from California? The rules are different for you than they are for me. The different rules are different for the Martindales than they are for me. Meanwhile, the Martindales did fucked up shit. And so did William Barr, who married Jessica Martindale. Justine Martindale said that she would help me. And she didn't. I went over there when she said to come over because she was going to help me. And I made mention of the fact that that's what I was there for more than once. Hours and hours and hours and hours later, finally, she says to me, well, can't you do it yourself? Thank you, Justine, for your help. Thank you so much for that help. And fuck your sister's husband. Fuck your whole family. You pieces of shit.